If your goal is to spark inspiration inside of either yourself or your team, then this is going to be an important episode for you to listen to, because inspiration is the reason why we get into business, because we're inspired to do something, whether that's to help people or to make money or to provide for your family or to beat your competition or whatever it is for you. Those things inspire us to take action and then keep taking action until we reach that target. But it's also important because it's how we continue to grow after starting a business, because you cannot continue to grow without inspiration. In fact, anytime you hear of a leader or a founder whose business is not growing, like it hits a plateau, it's almost always because they lost inspiration. And that loss of inspiration killed their motivation and caused them to make bad choices. And also, it's how we become great leaders, by inspiring others. And I would argue that inspiration is the impetus for pretty much everything inside of our companies. And it's the impetus for everything inside of our personal lives too. For example, I'm constantly inspired by how my parents raised me, maybe not knowing at the time that those lessons were going to be so helpful to me. But now looking back and remembering those lessons, and from watching other great parents, that helps me be a better parent myself. And also, I'm inspired by people who are healthy and in great shape, and that drives me to stay on track with my health and my fitness. But how do you get inspired? And I get asked that question at least once a week, either in the comments on social media or on my website. And maybe not in those exact words, but some variation of that question. And how I reply is about the same every single time, but I use different examples almost every time, because to be honest, I feel inspired every single day. I mean, this morning I woke up and I walked over to one of the windows in my bedroom and I stood there for a few minutes and I looked out over the water and I saw the sunrise and I watched palm trees swaying back and forth in the wind, and that was inspiring, because I'm grateful for what I have and I know why I have it. That view and all I have came from the companies that I've built and the teams that I've developed in those companies and the choices that we made. Those choices helped build teams that helped build each one of my companies, and those choices came from inspiration. And inspiration comes from having a strong desire to do something or be something more in a certain area of your life, and then making that area a study, right? It's a desire, then make that a study, and that study helps you to make better choices, and those choices, backed by consistent action, get you massive results that turn into more inspiration. In fact, the hardest thing to teach somebody who wants to be super successful is that they can be massively successful in anything that they want to be, if they take consistent action for 10 or 20 years. And that may not work for you if you're like, I don't know, a 5-foot man or woman who wants to play in the NBA, but spend 10 years studying and constantly taking the right actions to grow a supplement company, for example, and you could have a $20 or $50 million supplement company or more. Or spend 10 years studying and consistently taking the right actions to build a church, and you could have 10, 20, 50,000 parishioners or more. But most people want to be successful next month. And most of that ignorance is caused by social media, where so many people are renting Lamborghinis for a day just to take a pic in front of it. That kind of bullshit is creating the wrong kind of inspiration, because after a month of following those people on social media, most people get overwhelmed. And what kills inspiration almost immediately is the feeling of overwhelm. It's being inspired to climb a mountain, but then when you wake up and you drive to the starting point and you're standing at the foot of that mountain and you look at it and you feel overwhelmed just by the thought of climbing it, and then you go and you eat some fried food at a diner. But the way every successful person gets around that overwhelm is by educating themselves on the shortest, fastest path from point A to point B. Whether that's going from the bottom of a mountain to the top, or it's ascending to the top of a company as an employee, or it's building a company from scratch from 0 to 8 or 9 figures, or maybe it's raising a child while building a business when you've never done that stuff before. No matter where you are in life, to get to the next level, you need to be inspired. And to be inspired, you need to know what your target is, and then you need to educate yourself on the fastest, smoothest path from point A to point B, because understand this: the moment you feel a lack of inspiration is simply one step past where your knowledge ended. For example, you may be inspired to start a business, and you might study everything there is to know about the startup process of a business. But once you get past the startup process and you begin to gain momentum, you're going to feel massively overwhelmed, because you're not educated on how to smoothly get to the next level. You may be an expert at going from 0 to profitability, but if you have no experience in reaching your first million in revenue, or your first 10 million, or your first 50, or your first 100 million, then that's where it stops. And every one of those levels is a plateau that you absolutely need to be educated on at the right time. Because the moment you lose inspiration is always one step past where your education on that topic ended. And that doesn't mean that you always have to be reading books and watching videos. It means you need to be connected to the right people who have already done what you want to do so that they can point out the roadblocks so your path is smooth and predictable. Because success is all about plugging into the right people to get you from point A to point B. And one of the best ways to know the right people for you is to list one target that you want to accomplish in each of the main areas of your life. Personally, with your family, with your finances, with your business, and then any other area that you want to grow in. And after you have those targets, just write down one thing that you need to become really good at to reach that target. And you could call that an objective. So if one of your targets is to develop a team inside of your company that drives the growth for you, then one of your objectives might be to learn how to find and onboard and manage a great team member. And then figure out one reliable resource, a person who can help you build that kind of team in the fastest, most predictable way. And don't make your list long because that's called overwhelm too. Choose one target, one objective, and one reliable resource, and then move forward. And if that resource does not get you significant results in 90 days or less, then definitely move on to another resource. As you do that, you're going to become better and better and better at choosing the right people to plug into, and the amount you achieve in the coming months will be absolutely inspiring for you.